Time's up, Admiral.
Here it comes.
All kids out of the pool for Adult Swim. All kids out.
Lego Lord of the Rings Balrog raised eyebrows for what some fans say is an unfortunate pose. I see it. I see it. Oh, I see it. It's taking a piss on Gandalf.
You shall not!
And he says to her, listen, you got a fine white girl ass.
Before you go, one question.
Yes?
Where in the galaxy is Sanusi?
Show us your tits and I'll tell you.
I think I've died and gone straight to honker heaven. Boobs are amazing.
Try not to cough. I'm still sick. I'm not sick, but it's lingering. It's lingering. It's hanging on. It's making it very annoying. Hail and howdy, everybody. Welcome to the Daily Dive, the Double Ds, where you, the audience, are in charge. You make this ship go round. You're the lifeguard. You say it's safe to swim, but I dive in the deep end, and maybe I'm a weak swimmer, and you just got to point and laugh at me. Ha, what are you doing? Ha. That's what you guys do. Hope you guys are having a good, it's Wednesday, which means it's Warhammer Wednesday, but it's Wednesday already. I got to be honest. The week is gone by. I know it's completely a relative statement, but it feels like the week has gone by quickly. And I say that because we're usually about Wednesday now. I start thinking, okay, what am I going to do for Roundtable this week? And I don't have much to work with. And when I know I don't have much to work with, I get worried as I realize the week is almost over and I don't have much to put together a show for Roundtable on Sunday. So that's how I know that the week is going by relatively quickly for me, because I don't feel like I have enough material for a 2-hour show on Sunday. That's a me problem. You don't have those problems. You're fine. And he's not here today, Algram. He has gone off to do bot things today. He's off doing bot things that we don't understand or comprehend. I'll never understand the mentality of a bot. They say hello to everybody all the time, even if they're a troll. They say hi to me, even though I'm already there. And no, respect that. We respect Legatus. He does a lot of modding for everybody. And he has a real life too. Anyway, all right. It's Warhammer Wednesday. We have got $20 from Kel over on Stream Elements. Knights in my 40K. It's more likely than you think. Okay, so we've got our Warhammer Wednesday lore video. Brain isn't working either. I haven't been up for very long today. I maximized my sleep as much as I could. Stayed asleep as long as I could. I'm trying to sleep a lot because when you sleep, you heal, and it heals the sick. It heals the sick, and I still feel part of breakfast right here. It heals the sick, and I'm trying to get better. I'm gonna be like this the rest of the week probably. Why should I destroy? Well, here's the thing, Frank. I need an actual something to work with to destroy Dre's sanity. You know, I can't just destroy it on a whim. I need a trailer. I need something that'll dig deep into things he loves and crack his resolve. I can't just break it on a whim. And there are no trailers this week. Not that I know of so far. Nothing I'd be interested in anyway. Either way, so what we got today? I do have one little warm-up thing we'll get to in a minute. It came across my timeline on the old X Twitter this morning, and it's actually getting reactions. And I thought, you know what? I'll react to it on stream. Why just post when I can react to it on stream and maybe make some money on it? Because I ain't getting none of them Elon dollars on X. Nobody listens to me on X. Then, of course, we'll go over the news, and then we've got a lore video courtesy of Kel for Warhammer Wednesdays. And anything else you guys might feel like doing, because remember, there are rules to this show. $5 gets you an Adam rant on just about anything within reason. $10 gets you to ask me a question. I'll tell you no lies. And I will go down a rabbit hole with you. We'll talk about it. This week we had good old Fernandez T. He just gave me $10 with that bottom of question, and he said, "Hey, what can you recommend for anime?" And we talked about anime for a little while. I love talking anime. I love it. It is one of my primary sources of new entertainment in the here and the now. Every 4 months, there's always so many things for me to watch for at least a couple of weeks till I burn through it all. I'm down to my last 3 shows of the summer season. A couple of Cuckoos season 2. I've got the Water Magician 1. I have Shield Hero season 4. That's all I got left out of the. It was over 10 shows. I've been watching stuff for about 4 weeks now, and I've had a good time. It's been a good season. Some couple standouts. Nothing epic, but a couple of good shows. Anyway, $10 also rents me for 30 minutes to play a video game. You know, I would you guys be? How do you feel about this? It seems the $10 for 30 minutes in the video game seems to have run its course, especially because I'm going to leave it up because, you know, it's going to torture me for party animals whenever that comes up again. But do you guys think there needs to be a video game tier to force me to do a stream on some nights? I feel like there needs to be. Because I don't make money on those streams. As much as I enjoy solo gaming streams, I don't make any money on that. I do it for the love of the game, baby. I don't make any money on that. So I feel like I got to try and grift somehow. I got to grift somehow on my gaming, because my gaming, with the exception of when you make me play things I hate, my joy gaming, my fun gaming, I don't make any money on that, which is kind of weird. It's kind of weird. Anyway, $15 gets you a hot take reaction to an article you may see in the news when we go over the news segment, or one you may have found you want me to react to. That's a good one. We've done those. $20 gets you everybody's favorite reaction to a video, whether I like it or not. And $30 gets you chat made me watch his reviews, where I will review an episode of television or a movie of your choice live on the stream. No edits, no nothing. At least, well, no edits on this version. I might do an edit or two when I re-upload it, but this version right here, it stays in hot take form. Either way, we just did one yesterday, Evil Roy Slade, and my brain hurt on that. It hurt. That was not a good movie. So there's the rules. I'm sticking to them. And let's bring this up here. I saw this morning. Because what I do for the show, once I have secured the tabs for the news, which we know I reload and refresh by the time we get to it, it's been over half an hour usually, since I did to make sure they're up to date. Then if something hasn't jumped out at me for the previous day, I will doom scroll for about 15 to 20 minutes to see if anything's going on that captures my attention that I can have for a little opening chat, opening banter with you. And here's the one that jumped out at me today. Because at first you think it's, what is that? No, stop. What are you doing? Well, first you think it's a troll. First you think that this can't be serious. This can't be real. Somebody cannot seriously think that we owe Kathleen Kennedy an apology. I know. Right now, you're going, really? Really? She deserves an apology. Let's look at this guy. This guy, you know exactly who we're dealing with when this guy says, I have friends everywhere. He has a nothing account, even less than I have. And that's saying something. I have friends everywhere. You know exactly who you're dealing with. And notice it's an MCU avatar. We're dealing with an activist, fake fan stan. So we know it's not a troll because you scroll down right here and somebody lays in, she let TLJ happen. She must pay for her crimes. Buddy's been 8 years. Time to move on. Let's take a minute. Let's list the crimes of Kathy Kennedy, KK, Darth KK. Let's list the crimes. Crime number 1. Fooling George Lucas into thinking she's a good caretaker for his company and his legacy. Spent years being a lickspittle toady, pretending to be his friend. Mainly growing a massive chip on her shoulder. Growing a massive chip on her shoulder towards George Lucas and Steven Spielberg. Then George has had enough for various reasons and decides to tap out and sell to Disney. And he thinks, oh, wow, Kathy, she's been here forever. She has been a loyal toady. She said all the right things for all these years, so I believe her. Oh, I believe her. Kathy's going to be great. She's going to take over, and she's going to keep the legacy of Star Wars intact. I feel like it's a good idea. But what happened? She betrayed him almost immediately. Within the first 2 years. Granted, George had a love-hate relationship with the expanded universe, but she threw it out and instantly cut off the hardest of the hardcore Star Wars fans, myself included. That's when I entered my Black Pill era. And I was there on Star Wars for a good 6 to 7 years. It was not pleasant. Almost throughout my entire EU collection at one point. That's how bad it got. Couldn't look at it. Couldn't stomach it. Fortunately, I did not. And it's all right there in all its glory. So there's her crime. She threw out, she destroyed the EU and then had the lady balls. She had the lady balls to come out, walk out and say, as Disney Star Wars begins and starts to fail, has the lady balls to say, oh, we don't have thousands of pages and books of lore to work with when we're making this. Mind you, now we've released Force Awakens, which was essentially New Hope Redux, directed by one of the cheapest, worst motherfuckers out there, Jar Jar Abrams. And then all along the way, you get TLJ. And then everything starts to go down. TLJ, she signs off on Ryan Roundhead Johnson. Go ahead and completely destroy everything further. Let's release one movie after another that fails. Let's create Indiana Jones' 5th movie. The 4th one was bad enough. 5th one, at least the 4th one ends with a wedding of the 2 classic characters. You can write off. You can keep writing off Sunset. Let's be honest, there are only 3 Indiana Jones movies. They're still riding off to the sunset after leaving the Canyon of the Crescent Moon. They're still doing that. But you could have left it there. No, you had to make it. You had to allow a movie to come into existence where he gets punched by Phoebe Waller-Bridge. Had to have that happen. She allows the desecration of Willow and the ever-continuing destruction of Star Wars with Disney Star Wars. You got High Republic. You got shitty video games. You've got complete desecration of the original trilogy in comics, and they keep releasing books around that area. And then, of course, more crap. You get to Last Jedi. I'm sorry, you get to Rise of Soy Walker. Excuse me, we're already past Last Jedi. And then one bad TV show after another. And you watch what was once the most powerful IP in the world. There's no doubt. There is no doubt. And I challenge you to tell me what was a more profitable and powerful intellectual property franchise in the world from 1977 to 2012. Show me another one greater than Star Wars. Show me something that even at its cringiest within George Lucas Star Wars still didn't just freaking print money for the man and the company at Lucasfilm. Show me. You cannot. You cannot. A franchise that was the goose that laid golden eggs. And what did she do? Along with the permission of Bob Iger. Let's not leave him out of this. Destroyed it. Completely destroyed it. For what? For what? For the modern tourist fake fan stan base? That's who she destroyed it for. People like this who think Andor is peak Star Wars. Because that's who these people are. They think if it's hyper political, hyper ideological, that's good storytelling. They think The Acolyte was a work of art. They think that everything, and a large swath of them, not all of them, because they are splintered at the moment. They think Dave Filoni is the Padawan, the successor. He's done so much good. Rebels is great. Ahsoka, Mandalorian, Grogu. All these idiots they have left only care about Disney Star Wars. Everything after 2012. That's who she destroyed a franchise for. For what? Ideological purposes. Intersectional feminism. Commie Marxist agenda. Also, the chip on her shoulder against George Lucas and Steven Spielberg. Because when you ruin Indiana Jones, you're ruining it for you're taking a shot at Steven Spielberg too. That's why I'm including him in this conversation. So what do we owe her an apology for? She's lost billions of dollars for Disney. Billions at this point. Because we know for a fact that they lost money on the sequel trilogy as a whole. The net profit didn't happen. And then between her and Dave Filoni and all those other idiots at Lucasfilm, current day Disney Lucasfilm, one shitty television show after another on Disney Plus, which is a black hole that makes no money. You lost hundreds of millions of dollars on Indiana Jones. You have failed to properly license games for years. And you lost tons of money in comics and novels and merch. Remember, George Lucas made all his money on merch after the first movie. That's where he made all his money, allowed him to keep going. They haven't made any money. So what do we owe Kathleen Kennedy an apology for? What? Because she greenlit, she was okay with the Ben Solo movie? That's where this stems from right now. These stupid, weirdo, queerdo, fake fan stan shills are all going, oh my God, we could have had a Ben Solo movie. Raylo would have been real. That's what this is stemming from. Losers. These are losers. And they live in a dysfunctional fantasy. We don't owe her an apology for jack shit. She owes us an apology for destroying the greatest IP ever. And I say that because I am a Star Wars fan. My first franchise, my first love, Star Wars, at 3 years old. It's what I latched onto at a young age because it meant everything to me. We don't owe her an apology. We owe her a swift kick in the ass out the door. Of course, she'll never get that. She'll leave when she's damn good and ready. This year, maybe. Next year, maybe the year after that. I mean, she wanted that big win. She's not going to get it. None of these are big wins. We had everything ever wanted in Star Wars up until 2012. George didn't need to make another movie. We had the books. We had games. We had it all. And then this bitch lied to him and ruined it. So we don't owe her apology. She owes the world an apology for ruining Star Wars. And granted, she didn't make these things, but she allowed it all to happen. Fuck Kathleen Kennedy. All right. There we go. That just pissed me off. To think that somebody actually believes we owe her an apology. Good Sir Algrama Strong, member for 33 months. Wow, dude, yes. Who's the more foolish, the fool or the fool who follows him? In this case, follows her and her BS rattletrap. Lucas would have been better off following Hillary's mouth farts. Ooh, that's disgusting. Thank you, my friend, for being a member for 33 months. In Minecraft, we do not wish actual physical harm on Kathleen Kennedy. We just wish she would go away forever and never appear again. And we wish that she would just stop ruining it. Just stop. Just stop. Make it stop. Make the hurting stop. Make the hurting stop. I mean, I saw a thread. I saw several threads on X this morning in response to the whole Ben Solo thing from the other day. Whereas, no, let's go in search of the real last Solo child, Jaina, Sword of the Jedi. Let's do that. Let's in search of Jaina Solo, the real heir, one of the two surviving heirs to the Skywalker legacy of Force adepts, Force users, her and Ben Skywalker. Let's do that. Real Star Wars, real characters who had real stories and real growth and real arcs. Let's do that. I bet it was too salty for YouTube. Too salty. Anyway. All right. Let's see. Okay. Why don't we get to the news then? Let's get into the news. And while Kel recrafts whatever he was typing to go after Kathleen Kennedy. YouTube does not like Kel in his chats. It really doesn't. I gotta blow my nose 1 second. Excuse me. There we go. I apologize, but it would be rude and disgusting of me to blow my nose on camera. Really? YouTube is so messed up. I wonder. YouTube must really hate me. It must hate me. It really does. All right, let's get to the news. Let's refresh. Let's refresh the tabs and see where we are on the news of the day. If anything is of interest. Okay, here we go. Dallas area fine arts theater breaks ground on 10 million restoration, sets summer 2026 reopening. Film news and brief. Sure. Fine arts. I hear the word fine arts and I hear fine farts because fine arts is crap in today. No fine arts, all bullshit. Regretting You review. Allison Williams and Dave Franco star in a Colleen Hoover soap opera meets a YA romance. It ends with us. You see the word YA and you know it's bad, even if they could say it's YA. If they say it's YA, let's see anything there. Nikki Glazer to star in Right Edgy Romantic Comedy from Universal. Judd Apatow. Well, I'm sure that's going to be a rousing success. Sarah Michelle Gellar never thought she'd play Buffy again. Says you can understand Vampire Slayer reboot without watching the show. Oh no, man! They just keep digging the hole on this one. They really do. They really do. First, you're telling us that it's going to be as good as what Whedon did. It's not. Now you're saying you don't need to watch the original show to get into this one. And it's not a reboot. It's a revival. You're picking up farther down the timeline. You're not starting off from scratch. You are still Buffy. You're just training new Slayers, which Buffy's been doing for like 20 years. Because when they destroyed the glaive spear that they had, it energized, it triggered every latent Slayer in the world. So, yeah, that this show is DOA, man. It's DO fucking A. And I'm fine with that because, you know, Buffy and Angel, they had their time and it's long since passed. Netflix submits Noah Baumbach's J. Kelly in comedy categories at Golden Globes. Whatever. Don't care about music. K-pop Demon Hunters singers to perform first concert appearance at Kiss FM's Jingle Ball. And those who are into it are going to eat it up. It's gonna be an idol event. It's what it's gonna be. It's going to be an idol event. Miley Cyrus to contribute original song Dream Was On to Avatar. Oh no! Oh, make that freaking movie even worse for those of us who hate it already. Add a Miley Cyrus original to it. Gross. She's gross. She really is gross. Sundance can go fuck itself. A Big Break revived off Golf Network. Whatever. Don't care. Bon Jovi sets touring return with 2026 shows at Madison Square Garden, London's Wembley Stadium, and more. Sure. Okay. All right. Don't know what that is. Nordic Adventure Operation Napoleon. Whatever. Jeff Daniels proves that he's a lunatic again. We already knew that. Materials gets HBO Max streaming date. Oh, yeah, because it did so well in its run. Box office as Springsteen, Chainsaw Man, and Regretting You target 10 million debuts. Will NET throw in Black Phone 2? Does it matter? This is a limp-wristed, flaccid box office moment in history right now. All these movies are worthless. Now, get it. I'm not calling Chainsaw Man worthless. I'm simply not into it. I'm saying Chainsaw Man doesn't have the fan foundation that Demon Slayer does. It's not going to do what Demon Slayer did. Wicked for Good reveals Lego versions of Elphaba and Glinda in behind-the-scenes featurette. I don't care. Why must we continue with the Legofication of everything? I can't. That doesn't penetrate my brain as good. Let's keep going. None of this is interesting. Come on, give me something we can yell at. Why Joe Pesci refused to be interviewed for Apple TV's Mr. Scorsese? Because he's basically retired and he doesn't give a shit. That's why. Anything else? Anything? Audible Harry Potter series finalizes cast with Bill Nighy as Slughorn. Okay, so this was a thing last night. Everybody was reporting that Variety for a second announced Bill Nighy as part of live action Harry Potter. And they clearly because they immediately then pulled the headline on this website. They flubbed it. Apparently, it's for the audiobooks that are releasing once a month for the next 7 months. That's it. And yes, listen to what Gopher Painting saying, guys. Hit that like button. Hit the like button. I'm entertaining you, damn it. So yeah, Bill Nighy is not in the live action reboot. He's a part of the Audible novel, Audible read Audible Cast. This way to put Audible Cast, which is probably going to do really well. That's a stellar cast they got for that. And I hope people enjoy it. Anything else? Dick Wolf-backed Wolf Games teams with NBC Universal for immersive video games as AI-powered developer secures $9 million in funding. Dick Wolf, creator of Law and Order and that entire world, is a psychotic commie Marxist. Just know that. Just know that. Just know that. Let's go one more in. See if anything jumps out of this. Anything at all. Can somebody explain to me why Dancing with the Stars is a thing? Can anybody tell me that? Because I've never understood. Never. Never in my entire life. Never. Anything at all. Mariska Hargitay is also a psychopath, but I probably would still sleep with her. I probably still would. Nothing else. Let's move on to here, IGN. More Borderlands crap. Talk about watching something be on fire and those involved with it scramble to tell you it's fine. Bethesda reveals what to expect from Fallout Day broadcast. How about I don't care? Battlefield 6 trailer, Season 1 gameplay featuring new maps, weapons, and more. From what I hear, people playing Battlefield 6 are having a good time. We've seen some things come up on the news that they're talking about, but overall, it seems like that's gone off well. It's gone off well. Microsoft announces Xbox Game Pass Wave 2 October 2025 lineup. Just pretending all the Xbox stuff, Games Pass stuff never happened. Beginning of the month, just pretending, but it did. It did. We talked about that yesterday. The K-pop Demon Hunters Hasbro Mattel partnership. That's just a lot of money. That's a lot of money right there. You can make a lot of money there. The game we are making now is a Nintendo game. Metroid Prime producer Kensuke Tanabe reveals creative tensions with Retro in new book. We'd have to read the article to understand that. But I haven't played a Metroid game since Super Metroid on Super Nintendo. That's the last time I played a Metroid game. No Man's Sky Breach update out now. Check out the patch notes. Nope. We know my stance on that. We know my stance on No Man's Sky. After releasing a $1,000 handheld, Microsoft has said its next-gen Xbox console is going to be a very premium, very high-end, curated experience. That's a lot of dictionary words, a lot of $10 words for please buy our console. We're going to make it very carefully for gamers. Please buy it. It's going to be our last one. You're going to want it as a relic when it collects dusts. Nobody buys it because Xbox sucks. I've never been really an Xbox. I had an original Xbox used a couple of years later. I had to play KOTOR 1. It's the only way I could play KOTOR 1 at the time. So I had to get it for that. And I played some other games on it. I hated my Xbox. I hated it. Despised it. As soon as I could get KOTOR 1 and KOTOR 2 on PC, that was great. That was fantastic. Didn't need it for the Xbox anymore. Mortal Kombat 2 release date changes once again, but this time it's good news. Yeah, they pushed it forward a week. Wahoo. You get it in May. DC's Arkham Asylum series properly dead. James Gunn confirms. It should never have been in the first place. Another Batman show without Batman. Oh, but they're working on Brave and the Bold. It's gone under a lot of changes, guys. If Starfield had been released by a studio other than Bethesda, it would have been received differently, former developer says. If it had been filled with bugs, it still would have been considered shit. Listen, I bought it, and then I asked for a refund within 2 hours because I realized, man, I'm hearing a lot of stuff. This shit ain't gonna run on my computer. I'm not gonna do this. I got my money back, and I bought a couple other games of that. Yeah, isn't that strange? A lot of things get announced, a lot of things get canceled or moved around, or things you never asked for get pulled out of thin air, like Clayface. Nobody asked for a fucking Clayface movie. But yeah, Bethesda's a shit company run by Microsoft. Remember that, run by Microsoft now. Palworld developer Pocket Pair says it won't publish games that use AI. We don't believe in it. Hey, you don't need to use AI as a tool. It's just there as a tool. And just remember, guys, in about 2 months, in January, when Palworld 1.0 launches, the official release, not the early access, Kel here will be resetting our server, and we're all going to start fresh, which means I'll actually get to learn some of the shit that Kel figured out along the way, instead of just showing up and mooching. So it'll be great. I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to have fun with that. Dissidia Duellum, Final Fantasy post-prompt Square dev to reveal inspiration for Final Fantasy character 37 years later. Strategic insight. I guess that's a little bit of cool lore. If we were doing that kind of thing right now, maybe I'd read that, but you guys would have to want to hear that. I'm curious about that, but unless you guys want it, we're not going to. Because this is your show. You pay me money to talk about things. After I get my simple segment or two, you guys pay money to hear what you want to hear, not what I want to hear. That's the beauty of this show. This show is about you. I'm not just going to give you topics I think are interesting for the news cycle. It's what you want to listen to, what you want to talk about. Silent Hill series producer joins AI debate, claiming it would never be able to make Silent Hill F. Okay, once again, AI isn't going to make anything. It's a tool. It's a tool. Got to finish your breeding your perfect pal. I don't want to know what your pal sex dungeon looks like, your sex laboratory looks like with them. But yeah, AI is a tool. I'm not saying AI is going to make game, but if I had a great idea for a game, and if I knew how to use AI to make it happen, you damn straight I'd do it. I'd use it as a tool to make a good game. Battlefield 6 drawings have players wondering where the engineers are. Oh, I guess that goes over my head. GameCube classic Luigi's Mansion hits Nintendo Switch 2 just in time for Halloween. I don't care. James Gunn rules out Darkseid as the big bad for his DC universe. Says Zack Snyder already did it, and the supervillain is too similar to Marvel's Thanos. You know what? I'm going to bookmark this. We're going to open it up. I'm going to open it up in a new window here. And we are going to bookmark this. Done. I have some things bookmarked here that I keep forgetting I bookmark things sometimes on this, but I'll remember this time. We're going to come back to this one on Sunday. That's a roundtable discussion if I ever heard one. That's a roundtable discussion right there. Remember, everybody, he forces his pals to have sex with each other to make eggs. 100 egg hatcheries. Oh my, oh my. You know what I'm looking forward to when we do that? I'm looking forward to going out once we leave base camp. Once we all start to leave base camp and go and do stuff, I am looking forward to building my camp. Because I never had a chance to do that whenever we played. Because Kel was always faster to it than I was in the beginning. And the game didn't work well enough for me. So I didn't play enough to get to the point where I could make my camp. I'm looking forward to building my camp someplace where people can fast travel to and do stuff. I'm looking forward to that. Yeah. Cake laced with like pal Viagra. All right. So James Gunn, I look forward to this one on Sunday now. Ooh. Former God of War dev on the use of AI in games development. If we don't embrace it, we're selling ourselves short. See, right there. It's a tool. It's not fucking Skynet. It's a tool. Anything else? This is yesterday. We're into yesterday. Okay. Anything over here? Netflix claims it won't buy Warner Brothers. Discovery. Co-CEOs reiterate focus on organic growth over acquisitions. Netflix has its own problems right now. It has its own problems. It needs to deal with its problems. And it's like the second or third time they've said, we're not going to buy it. Fine. I'm not asking you to buy it. I don't want anybody to buy Warner Discovery. I don't want another monopoly. Universal announces 2-month-long Mardi Gras, for 2026 with more information still to come. Yeah, that could get messy. Iraq bans Roblox after a storm of child safety concerns to play the platform. Yeah, there's a lot of PDF files on that game. And that's kind of it. Oh, there's finally a Marvel Studios Vision Quest trailer, and you can't see it yet. Oh, I guess when that trailer comes out, we'll have to watch that, won't we? And there we go. Oh, Flash director Andy Muschietti blames fans for his movie's failure. No, you made a garbage movie. You made a complete shitball that rolled downhill and got bigger as it went. Poof. All right, there you go. There's the news. I'm sticking to it. If you guys want something, $15 gets it there. Okay, so we've reached that point. They never complain because you have them hopped up on drugs. On drugs, sex drugs. Anyway, okay, it is Warhammer Wednesday, which means we get some lore. Thank you, Kel, for the $20 today. Today, we are going to check out. Let's see. Horrible Heretics, Lionel Johnson, Warhammer 40K lore. Who are we with today? Let's see. Who are we with? We are with We're still with Arbiter Ian. We like Arbiter Ian. He's cool. He doesn't claim us. Okay, Lionel Johnson, one of the Primarchs. I like Primarch lore. Primarch lore is interesting to me. So let's get this. Thank you, Kel, for $20.
On a dark night in the early 800s M30, a group of armoured knights rode through a twisted and tangled forest. They were on the hunt, armed and armoured in ancient and barely understood technology left over from an earlier age, pledged to hunt down the weird and dangerous creatures that inhabited the deepest parts of the forest and that preyed on the nearby villages. Their leader was a hero of great renown, the most famous scion of a warrior order centuries old and steeped in tradition, but as they crept into the depths, the knights had no way of knowing that all that tradition was about to come tumbling down around them. For the creature they were about to find was no twisted monster, but one of the 20 Primarchs lost for decades in the dark forests of the world called Caliban. Hi gang, I'm Arbiter Ian, and this is Horrible Heretics. It feels appropriate to start this new series with the story of Lionel Johnson, the Primarch of the Dark Angels. Johnson was both a heroic commander.
So this is the first of a particular series that he started. Okay.
A master tactician and an Imperial hero, and also a terrible, terrible person, which, if you haven't guessed, is going to be the theme of this series. Throughout his first lifetime, Johnson was fated as the first Primarch, a master tactician and leader, a crusading knight and monster hunter, and one of the best generals in the Imperium. And though he was never comfortable in the spotlight, he certainly thought he deserved those accolades. But unlike his legion, who really were the first, the Lion was found much later than a lot of his brothers, by which time the Imperium had already begun to grow, and his youth, spent mostly alone, had turned him into a taciturn, isolated, and often brutally cold figure. One who kept his comrades and...
Oh, that was the first one we watched? Okay. I forgot. That was the title of that one? I remember that one. I didn't know that was part of this series.
And the Imperium as a whole at arm's length, even though in secret, he thought it should have been his to command. Like all the Primarchs, Lionel Johnson was created in a test tube under the Himalayan mountains on Terra during the Unification Wars, as the Emperor of Mankind tried to unify the war-torn planet Earth after 5,000 years of isolation in the Age of Strife. The Primarchs were made from a mixture of the Emperor's genetic material, the genetic material of another Perpetual, Erda, and a healthy dose of warp magic.
Healthy dose. Healthy dose.
They were intended to be new generals for the Emperor's ultimate armies, the genetically engineered Legiones Astartes, superhuman geniuses, loyal commanders, and eventually just and fair rulers in some cases, who could lead the Great Crusade out across the galaxy, unifying the disparate strands of humanity under the rule of the Imperium, while the Emperor completed his Webway project on Terra. But at some point during the development of the Primarchs, disaster struck, and the 20 capsules were caught in a warp rift that may or may not have had something to do with Erda, who...
Oh, she did it. We've already done this. She did it.
Was, like many people, horrified at the scale of the Emperor's plans. The capsules and the infant Primarchs they contained were scattered across the galaxy, many coming to rest on worlds containing human societies that had themselves been isolated since the fall of Old Night 5 millennia before. The first capsule, containing the infant Johnson, came to rest on the world of Caliban in the Segmentum Obscurus. Caliban was a world of dark forests, designated a death world long ago because it turned out of the strange and ancient artifact at its core, though nobody knew that yet.
What is the artifact? He's going to tell us? I was going to tell us.
Instead, the weirdness of Caliban manifested in the form of great warp-twisted monsters, known as the Great Beasts, and a pervading sense that the forests were somehow alive. It was a dangerous place to live. The human population of Caliban had adopted, in their isolation, a form of feudal system, ruled over by orders of knights that patrolled the forests near human settlements and tried to keep back the threat of the great beasts. Though largely a subsistence economy, certain technologies had survived the fall of Old Night, and the knights had access to very basic powered armor, pistols, and motorized chainswords.
Okay,
but exist.
Right. That's good. All right, so we're talking. I wouldn't quite. Doesn't quite like to say it's steampunk, but it's a little slight techno fantasy. Then
Was still a constant struggle in the face of the ever more dangerous monsters that lived in the forests. The capsule containing Johnson landed far from any human inhabitants, splitting open deep in the forest. Any regular human would have been killed in hours, but the infant Primarch survived. It's unknown exactly how long he was in there, because the Lion was reluctant to talk about it, but it was there.
He survived. I mean, it's like infant just like ripping trees apart and eating bark.
Under the canopy of the twisted trees that he learned his first lessons, how to hunt the horrific beasts that shared the depths.
You see, now what I assume is there's some sort of genetic instruction built into the Primarchs to allow them to easily, they're geniuses, to understand something and comprehend and come up with the logical conclusion on how to react to a situation. That's probably how he survived.
How to stalk, how to stay silent and stay alive, to fight only when he needed to and only when he knew he could win, to strike quickly and without mercy. At some point, nearby villages began to tell tales of this strange new beast in the shape of a man, of a forest spirit that fought the other beasts but always kept away from the settlements. No one knows how he survived so long, but he did, until eventually he was discovered by knights from an order known as the Order. The Order were one of the more preeminent orders of knights on Caliban.
Order. Can I have your order, please?
They've been in existence for thousands of years, originating when a single knight had sheltered from beasts in a cave, which had then been rebuilt and reinforced over the years until it became a mighty fortress city known as Alderuk, protected by one of the biggest orders of knights on the planet. And it was a detachment from this order, the Order, ordered to patrol far into the local forests, who first came across the strange visitor. The Primarch was, by this point, far larger than a normal man, covered in matted hair and the dried blood of great beasts, and the knights initially mistook him for their quarry, judging him no different to the other beasts, and wounding him with a primitive bolt pistol.
And then he slaughtered them, I bet.
But a knight named Luther realized something wasn't right and prevented the rest of the knights from attacking. Slowly, he approached this new beast, cornered against a giant tree, and brushed the tangled hair from his face, realizing that there were human features beneath. Eventually, they managed to convince this wild man to come with them, and the Primarch for the first time started to understand who he was and how the humans of this planet lived. Luther named him Lion L. Johnson, which meant the lion, the son of the forest. The Calumet lion was one of the fiercest of their great beasts, and he took him back to Alderrook. Luther, by this point, was a great hero of the Order, a knight of great renown, but his family had at various points been killed in attacks by the beasts, including his wife and young child, and so he raised the Primarch initially like a son. The lion learned fast, studying in the libraries of the fortress, learning to speak the local language, and training as an aspirant of the Order, though he always remained relatively taciturn and would never really speak of his initial decades in the forest. Like all the Primarchs, the lion grew quickly, and before long he and Luther were the rising stars of the Order, brothers in arms. The lion had an instinctive skill for command, was a superlative warrior, and had a quiet confidence and determination that saw the Order expand with new recruits. Eventually, taking a rare public position, he called for a change in direction, a great crusade.
I was gonna say, a great crusade to expand our power, because it's built into his genetic desire.
To exterminate the great beasts once and for all.
It's built in. Kill Xenos.
The Order, by this point, was huge. Many within the Order and across the other orders agreed with Johnson's plans, including Luther, and the two famous knights put their plans in motion as this new crusade rolled out. The beasts were hunted down into the deepest forests, ambushed as they stopped to feed. Their water sources were poisoned and their lair...
Wow. Poisoning the water sources, salting the earth, making sure... That's fucking hardcore. That's dangerous, because what if the water sources end up being your water sources? That's dangerous. But man, the brutality necessary to kill Xenos.
As set ablaze. The lion was always at the forefront of the fighting. Still a quiet figure, he was unused to being a figurehead, and so he threw himself into combat as the heads of dead beasts ranked up on the walls of Alderrook. Under their leadership, the war ground on for 10 long years. When recruits dwindled at the insistence of the lion, the old traditions that said only the nobility could fight were dropped, swelling the Order's ranks with new aspirants.
Like I said, it's literally built into him to grow an army, to go out there, kill shit, bring order.
New tactics were developed, recruits trained faster, the crusade evolved, but many amongst the various orders were becoming uneasy with the pace of change. The Knights of Lupus held out against joining the crusade for fear that destroying the beasts would be destroying a part of Caliban, and others disliked that this crusade disrupted the ancient traditions of their people. But by this point, the crusade had consumed the Order and many of the other orders, and stopping it was unthinkable to Johnson. Dissenters were killed as traitors.
Whoa, okay. Once again, he is his father's son. He is his father's son. If you don't join us, you're against us. That's the imperial way. As the imperial way, the empire, if you're not with us, you're against us, we're going to crush you. Then we'll take what you had.
Knights of Lupus and their holdfasts were besieged by the Order when they were found to be preserving live beasts, and rebellions were put down multiple times. Nothing could be allowed to stand in the way of the Lion's Crusade. Any means necessary were justified if it meant freeing Caliban from the grip of the beasts. Eventually, the Order were victorious. Now the de facto rulers of Caliban, and exhausted from the war, its knights elected Lionel Johnson Grand Master of the Order. Johnson, of course, remained distant, accepting the accolade without a fuss and moving on, and hardly noticing if this glory had any ill effect on the man he now saw as a brother, Luther, his star now totally eclipsed by Johnson's. But there was little time for reflection, because soon after the end of
here comes the Empire.
The war, an even greater crusade reached Caliban.
Yep.
In 846 M30, the Great Crusade reached Caliban and discovered the Primarch of its first legion. He was the 11th Primarch to be reunited with the Imperium, and they kind of knew what they were doing by this point. Sensing the presence of one of his sons, the Emperor and a small band of scouts from the First Legion descended to the planet.
Yeah, see, whatever mistakes have been made before, the Emperor knows, okay, I'm going to show it myself. And just like he did with Vulcan, I'm going to show up and I'm going to ingratiate myself, probably. And we're not going to have any mistakes here. I'm not going to, like, later on, he made mistakes later on. I mean, because we know from the previous stories, but that's how you do it. You go, hey, I'm your dad. Hi.
Planet and met with the Primarch, the Emperor, preceded by 500 warriors drawn from what was then known as the Host of Death. The Lion ritually dueled a cataphracti armored champion, but in truth, he knew that he had a deep connection to this shining figure and readily swore fealty once he learned of the Emperor's plans. This done, the Imperial delegation proceeded to Alderuk for a more formal, impressive, and stage-managed arrival. The Emperor's golden ship descending slowly from the skies as Caliban was formally sworn into the Imperium. But again, not everyone was happy with this. Many of the older knights were fearful of the changes planned for the planet as it became a new vassal of the Imperium. Assassination attempts were even made on both the Lion and the Emperor.
Wow, that's ballsy. I bet the retribution was stiff and fierce.
By dissatisfied knights. None succeeded, but it's telling that in the years to come, the Lion made no attempt to preserve Caliban or hold it separate from the Imperium as his own fiefdom, as many other Primarchs did.
I was going to say that's a very different reaction. A lot of the other Primarchs, once, as we've learned, once they were picked back up by the Emperor, they went back to their home worlds and said, okay, this is my area. We're going to hoist it up. We're going to make it. I mean, look, we looked at Vulcan last time. Vulcan, he basically made that place, Vulcan Central, and made the whole thing make shit, guys. Let's make this something special. The fact that Lionel Johnson doesn't give a shit says something. Yeah, I don't give a fuck. Whatever.
With their homeworlds. Instead, Caliban was turned over to the Imperium for modernization, its forests bulldozed and replaced by great arcology cities by the Mechanicum, as Johnson made plans to depart on this new crusade to free the galaxy from even bigger monsters.
See, there it is. That's what he cares about. I don't care about this world. I killed everything here already. Point me at the Xenos. I will kill them too.
He was given control of his legion by the Emperor, and he renamed them the Dark Angels after an ancient Calibanite myth. He redirected the recruitment processes of the Order, turning it into a vehicle for creating Legion warriors. Existing aspirants, if they were young enough, started the process that would turn them into Astartes, and if they were too old, they were given other augmentations and surgeries to greatly extend their lifespans. The first to undergo these surgeries was Luther, the right hand of the Lion, and in the wake of all this, if resentment grew on Caliban, well, Johnson either couldn't see it or didn't care. The First Legion, at this point, was scattered, and
I'm going to go with probably didn't care. From right now, my assessment is didn't care. He didn't care.
Borne the brunt of decades of campaigning, as the first of the Astartes project to ever see service, and the first to depart their solar system, the Legion was considered an ominous force. They held themselves apart from their brother legions and were feared as the angels of death by the mortal soldiers they served alongside, and their years of crusading had seen them fractured, pulled in a million directions as they faced the most horrific Xenos the galaxy could throw at them. In fact, by this point, something of a grim cult of sacrifice had started to infiltrate the Legion, as they were deployed again and again into wars of extermination on the far fringes of the galaxy, fighting alone and trusted with dark weaponry from the Age of Strife, and as they watched other legions reunited with their Primarchs and start to grow larger and faster than they could, a fatalism started to overtake them. And you can find out more about this on my video on the Dark Angels before and during the heresy, which is up there right now. Anyway, the Lion burned through all this, reorganizing both the Legion and the Knights of Caliban in anticipation of the planet becoming the First Legion's main recruitment world. The Legion's ancient pre-unification system of hosts was reformed into the 6 wings of the Dark Angels and a host of smaller specialist formations, whereas the ancient knightly orders of Caliban were disbanded. Johnson, fresh from completing his own crusade, took control of his Legion.
That's what I'm getting. People are tools. People are tools to be used to achieve a goal. Unlike other Primarchs, sane ones, we're not talking heretics, Primarchs, who found a certain familial attachment to their legions.
Legion faster than any other Primarch had and led them back to the forefront of the crusade. The old fatalism of the original Terran legionnaires replaced by a renewed sense of preeminence. Over the long years of the Great Crusade, Lionel Johnson came to be regarded as one of the most skilled commanders the Imperium had ever seen. He was a peerless swordsman, able to match blades with the likes of Fulgrim or Sanguinius, but also a great tactician, strategist, and battle leader. Many of his brothers excelled above him in specific theatres of war, but the Lion was one of those who understood the grand scope of war. He was single-minded and dedicated, often leading from the front, but this single-mindedness could border on the inhuman. Despite being from a knightly background, he was unconcerned with notions of chivalry. The enemies of the Imperium, like the Great Beasts, were to be exterminated.
Yep, just kill him. Just kill him. That's all he wants to do, kill him.
By any means necessary. By his own admission, he had difficulty understanding the emotions and feelings of those under his command. Though he was the first Primarch and was considered one of the most skillful commanders of all of his brothers, they often saw him as dour and morose, solitary, secretive, even arrogant, a man who saw things too starkly, without shades of grey. One example of this difficulty was in the story known as the Lion and the Wolf. The Dark Angels had assaulted the rebellious Duran system alongside the Space Wolves Legion, and in the opening acts of the war, the leader of the rebels had insulted Leman Russ, Primarch of the Space Wolves, calling him the Emperor's lapdog. Russ swore that he would personally cut the rebel leader's head from his shoulders and planned an immediate assault, but Johnson and his Dark Angels were the larger force and technically in command and refused the request to attack. Instead, Johnson enacted his own plans, made in secret, and had the Dark Angels conduct their own assault where, on the battlements of the fortress, in full view of Russ, the Lion killed the rebel leader himself. After the battle, Russ stormed into the Lion's command center and punched him in the face, leading to the two brothers wrestling for, apparently, a day and a night. This is from a saga by the Space Wolves, remember. When they eventually separated, Russ began to laugh from the ridiculousness of the situation, but rather than join in, the Lion failed to see any humor and used the moment to knock his brother unconscious while he was laughing. To the Space Wolves, this was considered a cowardly and dishonorable act, but by the time Russ woke up, the Dark Angels had just moved on to the next engagement.
See, that's the thing. What I'm getting here is Lionel Johnson, he doesn't understand, and what he did there, it wasn't personal. It was just, I want to win the fight. I'm not going to hold a grudge, but I don't care. It's almost a weird version of apathy. He just doesn't care unless it fits into his program of extermination. He doesn't care. He doesn't care. He's going to do what he thinks is best to get the job done. And while his brother would be like, hey, yeah, okay, we should have a fun brother toss. Nope, here's my opening. Boom, I win. Moving on. We're not gonna make a big deal out of it, but we're done.
In honor of this, every time the two chapters have been deployed together since, two champions have re-fought the duel, though whether this is seen as a friendly ritual or a chance to avenge a past insult varies with the years. The Lion also fought alongside the Space Wolves in the closing acts of probably the Dark Angels' biggest engagement of the Crusade, the wars known as the Rangdan Xenocides. The Rangda were a horrific species of Xenos that inhabited the galactic northeast and whose initial contact with the Imperium in the 830s M30 had resulted in the deaths of 5,000 of the First Legion. When a second great invasion of the Rangda broke out in the 860s, the Dark Angels were at the forefront of the fighting, alongside elements of the Death Guard, Raven Guard, and White Scars. This war was one of the greatest threats to the Imperium ever recorded, eventually spanning 2 decades of the Crusade and leading to the loss of whole legions and even Primarchs, and was only ended after the Lion and 2 other Primarchs deployed at Taxal and the Emperor personally intervened. During the third Rangdan
That says something. When Dad needs to show up, that means it's serious.
Xenocide, Lionel Johnson led the Dark Angels and the Space Wolves in a campaign of extermination across the northeast of the Imperium until the Rangda were wiped out, but the constant wars had massively reduced the prominence of the Dark Angels Legion, as other legions like the Ultramarines started to eclipse them in
Blueberries!
size. It was during the Rangdan Xenocides that the Primarch Alfarius would first approach the Lion, looking for patronage in return for his future support should the Emperor ever decide to name one of the Primarchs War Master. But when years later a War Master was named, it wasn't the Lion. Though he considered himself eligible by dint of being the Primarch of the First Legion, in reality he was too stoic and secretive to fulfill the role, especially when compared to the charismatic and diplomatic Horus Lupercal. When Horus was named War Master at Ullanor in 0M31, the Lion was said to have cynically accepted the appointment, writing it off as more proof that Horus was the favoured son, which totally doesn't sound like resentment, right? As well as misunderstanding his father, the Lion also had to contend with the changing attitudes of the homeworld he'd basically abandoned. Caliban had been massively changed by the Imperium, and not all the Calibanites were happy with this. The Lion, predictably, didn't really care about any of that, but while his return to the Imperium and his skill as a commander had given a new sense of purpose to the original members of the Legion, some of the Calibanite elements grew discontented. And this discontent even reached as far up the ladder as Luther, who had, over the years, become somewhat jealous of Johnson. He'd been permanently in the shadow of the Lion for decades, constantly trying to prove himself, especially given that, increasingly, the warriors around him were full Astartes, something he could never be, and eventually his wounded pride started to show. During the Saroshi campaign, Luther discovered a nuclear device that had been smuggled aboard their flagship alongside a diplomatic delegation, clearly intended to assassinate Johnson. He hesitated in defusing it. Though he did come to his senses and disable the bomb, the Lion seemed to have discovered that initial hesitation, and without really any explanation, sent Luther and many of the Calibanites in his command back to their homeworld as a garrison.
Oh, I thought he was going to kill him for a second there. I thought he was going to kill him.
Later stripping them of their fleet elements when they attempted to help Imperial forces nearby in the Zariman Crusade. Luther and his legionnaires, despite successfully raising company after company of new recruits for the Legion, had effectively been exiled on a planet that was fast becoming rebellious against Imperial rule, their Legion and Primarch a distant, uncaring master, a discontentment the dark heart of Caliban would start to take advantage of. When the Horus Heresy did break out, the Lion was in the process of leading the
Here we go.
greater part of his legion far away on campaign against the Gordian League, one of the 3 large loyalist legions dispatched to the very edges of the galaxy by the War Master. His initial reaction to the news of Horus's rebellion seemed rather optimistic, to be honest, realizing that Horus would attempt to capture siege weapons that were being produced on the nearby forge world of Diamat. The Lion moved to secure the weapons, but then handed them to Perturabo's Iron Warriors in the hope of strengthening his position as the next War Master. He still had one eye on the top job. Of course, while the Iron Warriors were on their way to Istvan as part of the Retribution fleet sent to punish Horus, they were secretly devoted to the traitor's cause and were about to turn those guns on the Loyalist legions, so maybe that didn't turn out to be the best decision. For most of the middle of the heresy, the Lion would then be trapped on the eastern fringes of the galaxy by the Ruin Storm and harried and delayed by a long campaign against Conrad Kurz and his Night Lords, sent by Horus to occupy and delay the Dark Angels. This Thramas crusade saw unspeakable atrocities enacted on planets in the region, first by the Night Lords in an attempt to goad the Dark Angels into chasing them, and then by the Dark Angels themselves as the war ground on and the Lion reverted to extermination protocol.
Lion reverted to his normal pattern, killed everything.
Was to flush out the traitors. Midway through the crusade, Johnson also came into possession of the Tukulka device during the Battle of Perditus, responding to a call for aid from the Iron Hands and then requisitioning the device for his own use. In the process, he decided to ignore the Emperor's ruling at the Treaty of Nicaea, reinstating his Librarius department despite the friction that caused in his own legion. The Tukulka was a warp device that allowed his fleets much greater maneuverability, and using it, he did eventually defeat his brother Kurz, but the traitor Primarch escaped into the bowels of Johnson's flagship, the Invincible Reason. Johnson himself would spend 16 weeks in the depths of his own ship, obsessively hunting his brother.
That, I tend to forget that despite the fact that these are spacefaring ships. These are technology to go through that. That the technology doesn't have the ability to track. There's no sensors. And the fact that the ship is so huge that he had to track him for 16 weeks. That's essentially 5 months of running around your own ship trying to find somebody. And that's how that shows you how massive they are. But they don't have because they're so afraid of certain types of technology that their tracking ability is non-existent. And he had to hunt him down. Primarch hunting game.
All the while journeying to Ultramar to join forces with the Ultramarines under Robuta Guilliman and the Blood Angels under Sanguinius, both of whom were also trapped beyond the Ruinstorm and cut off from Terra. Without any knowledge of if Terra even still existed, he was then part of the short-lived Imperium Secundus project, an attempt by Guilliman to create a backup Imperium in case the first one had fallen. The Lion was named Lord Protector of Imperium Secundus, but, of course, kept silent about both the Tucholka device and the rogue traitor Primarch hiding out on his ship until, inevitably, Kurz escaped confinement and went on a rampage across the Ultramarines' homeworld of Macragge. Johnson, of course, wanted to use weapons of mass destruction to level parts of the planet in an attempt to drive his brother into the open.
Yeah, you're like, hold on. Yeah, you're not going to scour Ultramar. No.
But was talked down by Guilliman and Sanguinius, opting in to deploy his Dreadwing into the populace instead. Eventually, he did capture Kurz and return him to Sanguinius and Guilliman, but rather than allowing him to stand trial, the Lion attempted to execute him, which saw Johnson and his legion banished from Imperium Secundus. But before he could depart for a long overdue return to Caliban, it was Lionel Johnson who first realized that the Imperium still stood. Both Sanguinius and Kurz had suffered from premonitions, often of their own deaths, and the nature of those was such that, if true, the Emperor and Terra must still be standing. With this realization, the Imperium Secundus project was dissolved, and the three Primarchs and their legions finally attempted to push through the Ruinstorm to reach Terra, eventually reaching the central world of Davin and destroying it from orbit, weakening the storm.
Destroying it from orbit.
And allowing the Blood Angels to push on to Terra, while the Dark Angels and Ultramarines distracted the traitor forces. In the Lion's case, this meant the launch of a campaign of destruction
his favorite thing.
Across the galactic south, enacting vengeance on worlds that had sworn themselves to Horus, and eventually raising the traitor legion homeworlds of Barbarus and Chemos, all while the Ultramarines continued battling through the Ruinstorm towards Terra. Eventually, after briefly recruiting elements of the Space Wolves and Raven Guard to his campaign of vengeance, the Dark Angels fleet reached Terra, but the Lion was way too late to affect the results of the war, arriving long after Horus had been defeated. In the wake of the heresy,
you got to wonder if he had tried earlier to try and get to Terra when it was under siege. You think he might have made it? Instead of going on I'm just going to kill everything vengeance streak. I wonder if he would have made it. If he had actually tried to get there instead of I'm just going to kill everything, this is what I like to do.
The Lion finally returned to Caliban to rebuild his legion, but by then, the seeds of Luther's exile had grown deep, and many of Luther's Calibanites and the planet itself were allied against him. In the wake of the...
You think he would have made it there if he had decided to actually try and get there instead of going the easy route of I'm just going to destroy these worlds? It's not really affecting the war. You think he would have made it?
The heresy, and with large segments of the population resentful of the Imperium, Luther had declared Caliban independent, and when the Lion arrived in orbit, the planetary defenses opened fire on the fleet. The Lion responded, as always,
as the Lion would. Fuck all of you, kill you.
With destructive force, and unleashed an orbital bombardment so powerful it weakened the integrity of the planet itself, and, in the midst of this, led an assault on his former fortress monastery, the now gargantuan citadel.
Ooh, that's a good point. I mean, one more Primarch for the assault on Horus's ship. And Lionel Johnson, he's as we just have observed, he's no slouch. He's no slouch. If he had been there with his legions and himself to join the assault team on Horus's ship, maybe the Emperor wouldn't have been wounded. Maybe Sanguinus wouldn't have been killed. Maybe. So essentially, it's selfish behavior, giving into what he just likes to do, kill shit, rather than, I don't know, stick with the team. Follow, stick along with the blueberries and push and get there. Maybe the blueberries would have made it in time if he had stayed with them and pushed. Maybe.
Of Alderuk, where he battled Luther in single combat. Eventually, a combination of the orbital bombardment and the titanic energies released by the now corrupted Luther broke Caliban apart, with only the fortress of Alderuk protected by defensive shields remaining intact, as Luther's rebels were sucked into the warp and dispersed throughout space and time. It was this one fragment of Caliban that would become the Rock, fitted with enormous engines as a mobile battle station for the Dark Angels chapter for millennia to come. But in the immediate aftermath, only Luther was found, mumbling that the lion had been taken away by the mysterious Watchers in the Dark. And after this, records are vague. For the next 10 millennia, legends grew that the lion slumbered somewhere deep inside the rock, but near the end of the 41st millennium, he became active once again. Waking after 10,000 years of sleep and led by the Watchers in the Dark, Lionel Johnson found himself in a strange mirror Caliban, a forested space that seemed to connect him to remnants of the fallen angels, Luther's old rebels, scattered through the galaxy and now hiding out amongst the planets of the new Imperium Nihilus. He learned to use this dream of old Caliban and started to gather followers, hunting down those angels who'd sided with Luther and judging them, those who passed joining his entourage as risen. The lion of this 41st millennium seemed calmer, wiser, and less prone to extremes than his younger self, and over time he came to terms with both his actions and the heresy and learned more about the events of the last 10,000 years. Rumors again started to spread of a mysterious savior, this time across Imperium Nihilus, of a figure who hunted the forces of chaos, and eventually the actions of the Risen brought Johnson into contact with Commander Dante, chapter master of the Blood Angels, now ruling as regent of Imperium Nihilus. And the two joined forces, but shortly after, the Lion and his Risen were to be reunited with the chapter that bore his ancient legacy. During the chaos plot known as the Arcs of Omen, the demon prince Vashtor the Archiphane reunited the ancient Ouroboros of Caliban, the Tukulka device, and a third ancient artifact in order to create a great and powerful key. As events unfolded above the ruins of old Caliban, the Dark Angels chapter and their successors were drawn in by Vashtor and almost destroyed on its surface as the key reformed. It was only the timely intervention of the Lion and his Risen battling his brother, the demon Primarch Angron, that saved Dante's life and allowed the Dark Angels to escape.
See, that's badass. That's badass.
The planet's surface. And there we are. The Lion of the 41st millennium seems to be a very different person from the Lion of 10,000 years before. Then, his upbringing in the forest had made him solitary, unforgiving, and extreme, so much so that he was quick to discard people and difficult to like, or even trust. His desire to come out on top, even to be the War Master, often led to bad decisions that would have terrible consequences, insults and slights he couldn't even see left to grow in the shadows. But 10,000 years of sleep seems to have granted him some perspective. His path has arguably been the exact opposite of the Dark Angels chapter. As they descended into isolationism and extremism, he seems to have woken with a broader view of the galaxy and far fewer expectations of his own role. But yet again, his reveal has automatically made him one of the most powerful figures in the Imperium, and we have yet to find out if he reacts to that quite as badly as he did the first time round. Thanks for watching.
All right, there we go. That was interesting. I love Primarch lore. That's good stuff, man. Good stuff. Thank you, Kel. I enjoyed that one. and I like learning more. Question is, can I retain? One of the good things I ask myself about all this stuff is, will I be able to retain all this lore, having only heard it once? We'll see how well the memory holds up with that. All right. Another Warhammer Wednesday in the books, and it seems you guys are satisfied with your entertainment today. So we're gonna wrap it up. I'm gonna try and just rest today. So I'm gonna try and rest and kind of kick what's up to this cold because I don't have to go anywhere today. Dinner's already made. Got leftovers. Got to do a little laundry. Other than that, I'm just gonna try and take it easy. And we'll see what the rest of the day gives me in terms of content. I don't know. Maybe we'll stream some more Final Fantasy Tactics tonight. Maybe. I'm kind of feeling it. I have to keep working on getting Mustadio and Agrius leveled up at least somewhat. I haven't figured out what I'm going to do with Agrius as her subclass along with Holy Knight. I haven't figured that out yet. I'm still thinking about that. Don't know what I want to do with her. I'm going to keep leveling Mustadio up with Alchemy because that makes sense. Because that gives me another semi healer and support on the field, because I just slap throw item on there and he can just toss shit around the battlefield, being good like that. But I'm not sure what I'm going to do with Agrius along with her Holy Knight abilities. She's got to keep her Holy Knight abilities because that makes her unique on the field. But I think I got to keep her a tank. It has to be something that goes with her tanking abilities. You know, maybe I'll level White Mage and she could be essentially a paladin. That's an idea. Level White Mage on Agrius. She can have healing abilities along her tanking abilities. Agrius the Dancer. Maybe. I haven't leveled anybody on Dancer yet. I haven't played around with Dancer at all. But that's the fun of Tactics. You can mess around and do whatever you want. If you don't like something, you could just respec or re-level and move it around. Nothing's permanent. Looks permanent. Anyway. All right. We'll do one last check on stream elements. Nope. Nothing there. So we're going to end the show. Thank you, everybody, once again for joining me for another Daily Dive, the Double Ds. And we'll be back tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern for another show. Hopefully, I did a lot less coughing today. A lot less coughing. In fact, I did it very lightly, not what I was plagued with prior days. It seems to get worse at night, which most things get worse at night the longer you go on. So maybe we'll game tonight. I don't know. Maybe we'll game. We'll see. What we will do tomorrow is have another show, and a rest of the week we'll get through it, have fun together. I appreciate each and every one of you. Your support keeps the channel going. Every like, every subscription, every little bit of helping the channel grow gets me closer to my goals of bringing you guys bigger and better entertainment. But it doesn't happen without you. So I appreciate all of you pushing me forward, getting me to where I am, and without you, this channel doesn't exist. So thank you guys. I will see you later with more streams and videos. Till then, take it easy.